So SAP thought about transportation management to be part of it from R2 time, which is very old time. And then it became slowly evolved into different versions of it. And now we call it as a SAP TM. And the latest one is 9.5 or 9.6 is the latest one. 9.6 is the embedded one. So there is no 9.6, but it is a S for core thing. Okay. So if you look at it, the initially transport management was very small and then it became LETRA, that is logistics executions part as a transportation management. LETRA was part of the R3 architecture. So many folks might be listening to that. If you had attended my yesterday's section, then somebody was asking what is LETRA and TM difference and all. So the shipment, what you must have been hearing in the ECC world, that is LETRA. That's the uh, topic which was there. Then they migrated, or when they had this APO module under which they covered TPVS, that is a vehicle system, uh, transportation planning and vehicle system. So that was part of APO using certain concepts of APO from planning perspective, transportation planning, but it was very initial stages. So there are certain transactions in APO or in SAP TM as well, which are kind of are using the APO nomenclature or something. So those are there initially. Then with the event management, SAP TM was evolved and it was connected to the SAP TM. The event management was basically giving you track and trace of the events during your shipment thing. Then the evolution actually slowly started showing up, and then SAP thought of having more coverage to be uh, done for this particular thing. So they came up with the next version, and then it became like a 9.1 was actually a lot better than 8 or this versions. And then it again further changed and evolved into 9.4, 5, and S4 core. So in R2 world, this screen was very bad. It looks like a programming screen, but yeah, it was like that one initially. And then this is a LETRA transaction where the shipment was created and it has some events uh, traced out. And then this is a WebDin Pro NetWeaver Access, what is the latest one of TM 9.1. So let me move to the next one. So what was this transportation solution and what was its focus? When initially they started, it was very limited and it was only looking towards shipper scenario. So what was shipper? Shipper was actually a manufacturer and who main focus was manufacturing things, and they want just the transportation to be done with the minimal thing. So that was a focus initially. So initially it was only that focused has been added. The event management kind of a triggered their requirements into having more holistic things to be added up. The RFIDs, because the palletization was introduced, the handling unit became a kind of a requirement in warehousing and TM, where everything was traced down the line. Then you needed extended planning, ocean scenario where you need bookings to be done beforehand. And that one was actually a third party or logistics service providers requirements, where the more holistic processes were required to be monitored and needs to be incorporated in the system. So slowly that was incorporated in the versions, and that's what the new version was covering up. So when you talk about very initial stages, LET area or something, that would be very small part of the transportation management. So does anybody have a questions on this one? I know this is very initial thing, but I just wanted to give you guys an overview of what was covered during the initial stages. Okay, so here I am talking about the difference between LETRA and transportation management. So as I said, LETRA was very initial stages and it was only catering towards only one leg of a transportation. So it was not available or was not doing many things. So that LETRA logistics execution was only available for goods issue process, and that was the only option. You cannot do the carrier selection based on a complexity, whether it like you want it based on a priority, cost, and utilization. Those are the things which were possible with the transportation management, but LETRA was having like a uh, fixed carrier who is doing that for you, then that is only possible. The settlements were plain simple, and the charge calculation was simple, single liner. But in SAP TM, you can do the charge calculation on multiple levels. The formulas and all can be possible in SAP TM.
So
The
now within, sorry, now the SAP TM, does it
Mhm.
have the facility to capture the shipment cost as a condition
Mhm.
within the sales order itself? And that
Not
is,
not in a
yeah,
sales order, but you can capture the transportation cost and can update in sales order one particular condition, and there is a routine definitely written which can update that price.
and that gets dynamically calculated. I
Hmm.
mean, so when you choose this is the carrier and this is the freight
Correct.
cost and
Yep.
okay,
So not at a
and
sales order
that
level. Not at a sales order level. It would be a notional thing, and then once you do the billing, at that time you will have that clarity,
okay,
more
because
clarity.
sales order is still at a planning perspective, right?
Correct. Yes.
Your goods are
Absolutely.
not left in the
Correct.
warehouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
The actual cost is could be a little bit different, so that would be part of your invoicing.
No, but the visibility standpoint, as you said, there is a ability, system is able to capture that,
Hmm. It is.
the estimated cost. Okay.
Yes, it is possible here. So the LATRA doesn't have any visual thing for planning perspective. So the SAP TM has a planning based on a maps, geo coordinates, routes, everything that is possible with the SAP TM, but it's not possible in LATRA. The another advantage of SAP TM is you can combine good receipt as well as a goods issued together, meaning you can pick from a supplier and drop it to the customer directly. So the third party scenario kind of stuff. So those are possible within TM, but if you go with the LETRA, you cannot combine good receipt and goods issued together. You have to have two different shipment documents, because shipment document has a direction first, whether it's outward or inward, and accordingly you will have a option of selecting the deliveries. So mostly outward, then outbound deliveries. If it is inward, then inbound deliveries are available for your selection. Uh, the analytics are possible with the TM, whether those are what are the freight orders done, invoice, not invoice, like that one. what is the status standard and all other. Those are advantages of the TM.
So analytics is a separate application component, right? So to identify the key performance indicators, is that what it delivers?
Uh, I could say it's a little bit not necessarily exactly the analytics part, because there are some queries, standard queries, which you can use for day-to-day analytic purpose. But if you want actually spend analysis and all other, you need to have create those queries or the reports actually. Those are not available in a standard SAP TM. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Um, and this particular table I have taken from the blog written by us. Swati has been written this blog for us. So it has been taken from that. And here you might be able to see that link. So let me exit it. That's the
So Adi,
blog.
this is copyright or copy is right?
Copyrighted. So this is what Swati wrote, and if you want just to have a look into this particular LETRA and TM comparison, it is available on this blog. So this link is available in my notes of this one. You should be able to get that one here. It is copied and reference, so I am covered with the copyright thing. Right? If somebody wants to question about that, yes.
Yeah, it's you and Swati who has to sort it out. But
Yeah. So I just wanted to give you SAP TM architecture. Not necessarily this is exactly the architecture, but SAP TM, this is an application. It is linked with the event management, and it is using NetWeaver application. So the NetWeaver is used for your actual transaction um, recording thing as well. Then it
so this
connects.
one doesn't matter whether it is cloud or on
Mhm.
premises, still the architecture remains same, right?
Correct. Yes.
No, but if that is a concept, then the SCM is
Mhm.
showing as a separate than ERP.
Yeah. So I just this is old version. So I'm talking about 9.1 to 9.3 version of TM. Okay. This
Okay.
SCM is part of it because it was still the standalone system at that time. But when you look at an embedded system, it will communicate that way. Okay. So instead of ERP component, it will have this multiple things in here. Correct?
Okay. No, but if it is embedded,
Mhm.
maybe I'm not jumping the gun, but the interfacing between ERP functionality and TM have to be manually set up, or it is automatically integrated.
It is automatically integrated. There are certain
Okay.
things which are already there, so you don't have to worry about that one. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Right question. So SRM was also linked because it was part of SCM. So this is just a APO thing, and these are CRM, SRM, everything is there. So business objects are there for GTS, which is using for custom clearing and all. So those compliance relevant. So those are there. You need TM to be integrating with that one. The
Okay,
EHS
this is
is
Vikram. Can I ask you a question, please? Adi?
sure. Yeah.
So Adi, my question here is on this integration between TM and ERM, ERP, or S4, the standalone
Mm-hmm.
TM. So when you say
Mm-hmm.
it's native integration, there has to
Mm-hmm.
be something that would connect both the systems. Is it
Correct.
QRFC, IDOC based? Is it BAPI calls? What is the
Mm-hmm.
technology that kind of connects the standalone TM with, S4 or ERP?
Okay, so there are two options available for us to do that one. There is a workflow based update from ECC or S4 to TM, standalone TM. That way you can communicate it. Or you can use a process integrator, PI.
Okay. So when you say
And
PI,
through
would
that,
yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
yeah. So through PI, everything gets connected. PI is always a in between for SAP to communicate with external sources. So PI was always used. Earlier it was called PO, then PI, and now it is a cloud integrator and all. So that is always there, which does the communication with outside world, SAP outside SAP environment. So yeah, that is always used for communication between these two. So this link is PI most probably. PI is doing this communication.
Okay, thanks,
Let,
Anand.
so
Yeah, the simplicity standpoint, XML, if you are using XI, your output will be XML and input is XML.
correct. So
Okay.
if you say, let me put it here, TM. So TM is just a server. It doesn't have anything communication. So it will always do like this one. It will send, it would be bi-directional thing between this to this. And okay, sorry for my drawing skills. So PI, and from PI, everything is connected. There are some exceptions, of course, but SAP TM generally communicates via PI.
So PI, though both are in the same infrastructure, so meaning typically PI is used for external communication where you are talking to third-party companies. But just because the infrastructure itself, even with the same organization, same landscape, you still go through PI, correct? So ERP talking to TM is only via PI. Is that statement
Yes.
correct?
Okay. Yes, that is yes, correct. That's when we are talking about standalone TM. Okay.
Okay.
In case of embedded, it is QRFC, which is communicating it via QRFC.
But embedded, as you said, that there is no requirement to set up any of these communications.
Correct. But if you want to see how that communication has been happening, or whether the documents are not showing in TM, what are you going to see? That would be a QRFC. Queues you are going to monitor.
Okay, but that is within the same landscape, right?
That is embedded scenario, yes.
Yeah, so in an embedded scenario, you are not viewing TM and ERP as two separate
Entities,
logical
yes.
objects.
Correct, yes. Logical systems, yes. It is one and the same, that's why.
Adi, this is Vikram. I had one more question, if I may ask.
Yeah, sure.
So I fully understand that PI is a middleware that can be used to send data between TM, standalone, and ECC, or maybe even S4. But hypothetical scenario, I have an organization that does not use PI. I use a different tool like a Dell Boomi or maybe Sterling Integrator. Well, I could always connect the existing middleware I have and still be able to do the same thing that I would achieve through PI, because my organization probably would like to have another tool and have a licensing fee for that, right? That's doable.
Is it done to TM? Are you using it to, you're able to see it in TM, or it's a different system you are looking at it?
No, so the thing is, the scenario is that, my company wants to implement a standalone TM, okay? And let's say I'm running ECC. And I'm using basically for middleware because my middleware is not only communicating internally with systems, but also with external partners. It's a different middleware. So in that case, because SAP is open architecture, I should be able to use this existing middleware, connect it with TM, and then work with ERP and get the information to go back and forth, right? As long as I can map, and that should be doable. I'm not like, in other words, I'm not tied down to PI, communication, right?
If it is that way, then I think you are using the ERP to TM communication via workflow. That's another option which is available for communication.
Okay, thank you.
WebDyn Pro is nothing but this FTP protocols, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Vikram, if I answer that question to you, just from the understanding or experience standpoint, hypothetically, your organization will be spending more time and money on the interfacing itself than taking the full advantage of the standard PI. And organizations do have the multiple middleware systems because it's not PI is not the only middleware that you have, but the classics of TM is just because you are communicating to the external world to a significant time. It's always an XML based communication. So your carriers or the other drivers or all, they will be using XML. So you should have a middleware. Better to have PI. If you don't say, hey, I don't have PI, let me use the existing middleware. Yes, you can technically anything and everything is possible, but you will be spending more time and money on interfacing.
Middleware. Vikram, yes, I agree on to that part. And I have seen for EDI communications, there are like a SPS Commerce, OpenNote, Open Text. These are the big names who are like ruling everything in this world. And those are the middlewares everybody is using. But to communicate it with SAP, everyone goes through PI because the IDOC mapping, interface mapping from SAP to PI is seamless. You don't have to do a lot in there unless you want some additional logic validations or extra things in PI, then yes, it would be additional thing. But adding clearly same IDOC or transactional data from SAP to PI is very easy and quick. But talking about the license fee and all, I don't think the PI is that much costly. It's much because it's a technical middleware where you are just communicating it more on that one. But I really don't have that. Actually, I don't have those numbers in my head or somewhere to talk about it. So. So in this architecture, TM communicates to all other systems via PI, okay? And it needs certain things. So I wanted this one to be done something differently. Oops. So there are multiple things which SAP TM uses. So as you see here, it's not just one way of communication, GTS. For global trade services, which is used for your customs documentation compliance, especially when you talk about petrochemical industry, pharmaceutical industry, you need to have that global trade agreements to be maintained and those needs to be followed. So those are there. Then you also need a GIS system here because TM not only communicates it via uh, it needs global positioning system. So that would be used for your distance determination, then knowing the route, maps, everything for that GIS is used. SAP TM would be communicating it to S4 as well. So here I will say ECC or S4 system. And nowadays it's a different architecture, but TM is using EM, event management as well. For carrying out whole thing, it needs to have all the systems, and of course it has the NetWeaver as the way to communicate to or do the transactions for everyone. So I'm not saying EWM or others, but these are like a basic things, and there could be some third party tools or connections which you can utilize from TM to do the transactions. So let's say for schedules and all, you might be using some interface to update the schedules in TM. So to talk about that, so RAID, not RAID, rail schedules of the railway lines in United States, those can be updated via different interfaces. Then the requirements which are, if the TM is a standalone or it's for LSP, you are getting some requirements from other systems. So it's ECC, S4 or any other system. Those are going to send you the requirements. So there would be a different interface through which you can get those details. The currency rates, which can be updated in TM, the fuel charges, which are US always follows, or like a weekly one fixed price for fuel charges. So that indexation can be updated in TM. For that one, you can have an interface. Then for this is my experience. I have seen that track and trace is not effective in TM because it uses event management, but it not exactly gives you the ETAs and other aspect of the shipment. So people have gone to some third-party tools where they send their shipment details, load details, and see on map how it happens. Although SAP says that it is available in TM, it it charges different for that services. You have to pay a different licensing fee. So GIS is available by SAP as add-on service, so it would be additional cost for licensing, and then would add up the TM cost for any organization. So generally, they go for PC Miler is the one in US. Then there are multiple in Europe. Mile MileMaker is another one in the US. PC Miler is used in Europe as well. Then global positioning. Google is another one. People are now using it. So there are multiple GIS positioning things available. So those could be utilized. Mm, anybody is having any questions on this one?
But these
Yeah,
GIS
Rajesh,
tools, GIS tool show Arunachal Pradesh as part of India or China?
Sorry, GIS?
Tools show Arunachal Pradesh as part of India or China?
That is based on whose services you are taking, and he would be showing it based on that. Yes.
yeah, the Ritesh here.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah,
Ritesh.
I got a bit confused between this positioning system GIS, global track and trace,
Mm-hmm.
and event management. I think I've read something before, like it's all mixed up. So right now you said it's add-on. GIS is available as a add-on licensing, or
Okay. So global positioning. So you have a longitude and latitudes for each location on Earth. That one is global GIS, global information on imaging system. So that way, and for getting that information, there are various tools available which are used or those are giving those services. SAP does provide this tool or positioning thing, but it is with the additional cost. It's not part of the your TM licensing fees.
Okay. I thought this was further within GTT, Global Track and Trace,
No,
which
no,
also
no,
has a
no.
separate license, right?
Yes, GTT is also different. Global track and
So,
trace, yes.
so I mean, just we since we are here, what does exactly GTT does so different from event management? And now that I know, it also doesn't help with positioning, right? Because it doesn't
Mhm.
have this GIS feature. So
Correct.
only advantage of that I see is freedom from what is that EDIs, which is of course a really good thing, I think.
Yeah.
But what is so much being talked about that?
So GTT is a new terminology used to replace event management.
Okay, so
And that is like event management has been taken out and made a global track and trace uh, in S4 world. Okay. And that would be doing what the event management was doing earlier. So with new features added up.
but is
So
yeah, isn't it funny that it's called global track and trace and it doesn't have the positioning feature?
yes.
Okay, that's
So
going to be
global
interesting.
track and trace just gives you a tracing where it is, which is what the event management was doing to you.
Now,
And
that is typically, I think, Ritesh, if my understanding is right, GIS and this track and trace are providing you two different functionalities. So
correct,
GIS is only providing you the longitude and latitude of the entire geography or the globe. Okay,
mm,
so
mhm,
it's like you having a GPS in your smartphone. Okay,
But not having it.
whereas whereas the track and trace is typically monitoring your assets where they are at a given point in time. So
So
this
how can
is
you monitor when you don't know where they are? That's my question. Because it doesn't have the ability to
no
position. So how
functional.
can you?
It has see HTTP. The track and trace should have connection to GIS when it comes to identifying the geographical location of it.
correct.
Okay, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
what I'm the technical point what I'm trying to convey is both
Mhm.
are two different functionalities.
But can you please give me an example? I mean, that will make it more concrete, like a
Okay.
real-time example from SAP or a customer.
Okay,
Okay.
so maybe we can take that offline.
Uh, Let me try to explain it to Ritesh. So GIS is what you get global positioning, which gives you a longitude and latitude. And based on that, you also get a map, okay, with GIS because it's what you are requesting from them. And it gives you a distance. So when you talk about uh, 2 points, how much distance they are apart for whatever the route or whatever the strategy you want to use. So you want a straight line and other lines like optimal, actual road distance. Those kind of things would be available via global imaging system, GIS. Global track and trace is like when you are doing moving, you already fixed a load which needs to be moved from point A to point B. Then where that load is lying on that particular thing is what the GTT gives you. Does that make clears your doubt or it's still
It's a
not?
little bit clear, but yeah, that's fine for now.
Mhm. So GTT, let's say you want to move it from New York to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. Okay. So New York, what is the position that is GIS provides, and Philadelphia, it also provided by GIS. Okay, now the load, you have already decided that I have to move it from New York to Philadelphia. So now you already know that these 2 points are there where the load is initiating was from New York City and where it was destined for Philadelphia. So those are there. The GTT will show the movement of your load. It has left New York City. It is like 2 hours away from Philadelphia. It has reached Philadelphia, like that one. That's the GTT.
Okay, that's why you guys saying it's more from a functional perspective.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, fine, perfect.
Okay. So going back to our topic. So, so this is for the standalone thing. Okay. When you have ECC or S, I'm specifically showing this slide because during a certification exam, whether you are using it for 9.5 or latest S4, you still need to understand what is done for the previous versions. So ECC to TM standalone thing, then there are business functions, those needs to be activated. Okay, so this is a logistics TM order integration. That's a business event which needs to be activated in ECC so that it is getting communicated to TM. So the interface or the certain configurations will get activated in TM, ECC. So with this one, you are able to integrate your order deliveries that details to, even though it says order, but it allows you all that information to be communicated to TM. Another one, this one is the integration for your invoice, but this is for EHP 604, and it has two different interfaces, but those can be done for the invoice communication. So what is invoice communication? When you have a settlements or you want the invoicing to be done in ECC, one is integrated via these two interfaces. So this
whether
is
it is S for HANA or regular standalone, you still have to activate these business functions, right?
this is for ECC side.
Yeah. So if it's like a switch. If you don't switch it on, you will not be able to use TM functionality.
Correct. You cannot send those to TM.
Okay, but basic order integration and order integration, what is the difference? Is it just the basic?
So basic order integration, what you are talking about, basic TM basic and other functionalities, or hello, Naga?
I see out of I see out of three switches that you got, order integration new 605 and basic order integration new
so
EPH 604. So
these
604 was the older version.
Correct. 605 is the latest version of EHP. Now I think the 7th and 8th are there. 7 is the HANA version.
Okay.
HANA 01. 10, sorry. And so these are just for the earlier packs for ECC. These are the basic functions. So these are
typically you need to switch on two switches. One is for invoice integration and is another for order integration.
Correct. Yes.
So order integration also covers the delivery processing, right? Though the name order.
Okay. Yes. Even though it is said order, but it does the whole thing. there is an option for you to mention the delivery. So sales order document type, so which is sales order and deliveries, that can be communicated same way. So yeah.
Okay.
So this is for standalone TM. Okay. So let's say now we saw that these were the ECC functions. So these are the TM business functions which are needs to be activated so that TM is able to communicate between those. So the EHS is for dangerous goods, environment, health, and safety. So those are specifically coming to the TM. The event management content, the external, specifically SCM relevant information, and this is transportation network relevant. These functions are kind of create certain master data and transactional data, updation of a transactional data in TM. So those are kind of required before we start doing actually configuration or anything else. And this is for TM, which is a standalone system.
And no switch is required for GTS?
GTS, it would be there. I haven't covered here, but GTS would be, there is one switch, but I don't remember which one.
No, you don't need to, but yeah, but my question is, you also need one, correct?
Yeah, it would be required.
Okay.
Yes. GTS.
I don't need to know technically, but yes, you need a switch. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So I think Ritesh was asking this question, right? Embedded and standalone.
Yeah, exactly.
So these are kind of a prerequisites for that standalone thing. Okay. So I was mentioning something like there is another way of communication between ECC and TM. When we talk about earlier versions of TM, there is a web workflow process and one is the PI interface. So I think I haven't done that part here, but I will add up on that one. During the course, there would be something additional on that one. I will be communicating that to you guys for that. So moving on to the next one. So when we talk about user interfaces, so initially SAP TM was also having that GUI kind of a transactions which were not appreciated by transporting community. I am specifically saying that transporting community because they were the ones who were using the systems, and especially the logistics service providers and all. So SAP understood that one and they changed it to NetWeaver client, and that's where the web-based thing started coming up. And there the users were having different requirements. That's definitely as per their roles, right? One is a regular user who is doing day-to-day transactions in particular area, and the manager may not be logging into the system and doing that one, but once in a while he's doing that. So that's a casual user, and that's how the tile structuring and all would be visible according to that. So I will be showing you that this way of looking at it, and once we log in into a system, and it is again something we have to see when we are doing this part, like user authorizations and all. So user authorizations are typically at organization level, location, personalized, or those multiple things are available. So that via that it is controlled. And now with the new S4 HANA thing, we have Fiori apps, which is furthermore making this concept more user friendly. So you have like your work tiles. So based on that, you will be able to see that, okay, my work tile means I have only this many things to be worked on. And if I'm authorized, I'm able to see or do that things in the application. So I will show you that Fiori app, how it looks like and what are the tile structuring looks like. So does anybody aware of FPM?
I don't know what it is.
Naga. Okay. So floor plan manager, that's what is used by creating roles or the WebDin Pro thing, which is the NetWeaver thing. So it uses the normal application and the floor plan management, the ABAP Tin Pro thing to create for user specific interface or tiles. So that's the tool used specifically for the NetWeaver client. You may not be using it fully, but one of the certification questions was around this thing. So I just wanted to cover that part. That would be end of my today's session.